Stan Parsons is an advanced teacher on the principles of total property management. He's got a degree in agriculture from South Africa and a doctorate of philosophy and reproductive physiology. He studied for his master's degree in agricultural economics in America, and he's held a lecturing post at the University of Zimbabwe. He's a world-recognised authority on the subject of animal husbandry, rural management and rangeland economics.
Ranching for Profit has been transforming farmers and ranchers' operations all over the world since 1983. Our founder, Stan Parsons, set the foundation for curriculum that's been tried, tested, and proven to work for thousands of agricultural businesses around the world. Although the world around us has been changing faster than ever, these principles remain true, timeless, and applicable for the modern ranch, and will remain that way for the future. Just listen to what Stan was teaching all those years ago, and you'll see that the legacy is still in full swing with Ranching for Profit today.
So we have a very simple definition of profit, and profit is where you have an increase in net worth over the course of the period of time that you're examining. And you have a loss when you have a decrease in net worth. I'd like to take this a little further and say that it's not just a question of dollars, it's also a question of real asset value, in other words, our resources. So if our land is deteriorating in productive value, then in truth, we are making a loss. We may have capitalized and got more cash out of the business, but if in the process of getting more cash out, our natural resource has deteriorated, it is less productive because we've mined it, then I believe that in fact we have made a loss.
We overcomplicate economics enormously. We can in actual fact look at it very much more simply. We can improve the gross margin per unit. We can increase the number of units, in other words, the turnover of the business as a whole, or we can reduce overhead costs. And when you get right down to it, those are the only three things that we can do to improve profit. Obviously, if a bloke has a problem in too high an overhead cost, and he then attempts to solve the problem by bringing in better bulls, which is going to improve his gross margin per unit, but in fact his gross margin is not a problem in the first instance, he's absolutely wasting his time and his money treating a problem that is not a real problem in his business. If you want good property management and really successful property management, you must pay as much time to the business management as you do to the range management as you do to the livestock management. Somebody who emphasizes only the business and ignores the livestock is going to be in trouble. Somebody who pays attention only to the livestock and ignores the range is going to be in trouble. In the short term you might survive, but in the long term I'll guarantee that a business like that is going to end up in trouble. It's not the situation, it's how you handle it that counts and how you react to it that counts. So if you've got a problem and your problem is basically an overhead problem, then you zero in and you say, what am I going to do about the overhead problem? You don't pretend that it doesn't exist, you hit it head on, you get in there and you tackle it. To me, probably the most important activity in the property management year is the time that you sit down and you prepare your budget for the year in advance. The budget is no more than the minutes of the meeting that you've held with yourself to decide what it is that you're going to do for the future. At the end of every month you say, well, what have I done so far this month? You compare it with the actual and you say, am I still on course?
I'd like you to notice the way Stan is speaking here, focusing on the cause of problems rather than the symptoms. It's the same way we teach today. We've helped thousands of alumni over decades apply these timeless principles.
The single most important factor affecting gross margin is reproduction. So if we had a breeding unit that had a poor gross margin, the first place that I would look to would be the reproduction. In other words, the product that we produce from that enterprise. Reproduction, in turn, we might say, is directly a function of the nutritional state of the animal. If we've got a poor nutritional state, we will almost certainly have poor reproduction in that herd. When a grass plant has been defoliated, it now needs to get energy from some source in order to regrow and to put out new leaf. It uses plant roots and the basal part of the plant, the energy stored in those areas, to push out new green leaf. As it pushes out new green leaf, that green leaf traps more sunlight energy, which then allows the plant to grow at a faster and faster rate. As the plant continues to grow, the older leaves begin to shade the more efficient photosynthetic new young leaves, and the rate of growth slows down. And eventually we're going to get to a state where that grass plant is using more reserve energies to stay alive than what it's trapping in the way of sunlight energy. That's an energy inefficient phase 3. It's by no means a mistake that we have what is good for the plant is also good for the animal. What's good for the animal is good for the plant. And what we're really trying to do is trying to maximize the daily intake of energy from the plant's point of view, keeping the animal on grass that is in phase 2, where it can maximize the amount of energy intake. What happens is the grazing animal will repeatedly come back to the plant that it grazed before, never giving it an opportunity to grow out. If we stop the overgrazing by allowing the plant time to grow out, we would be able to not only prevent the overgrazing, but also carry more stock.
At Ranching for Profit, we believe in and see the results of the principles Stan taught from the beginning and carry on his legacy of practical and transformational training for your ranch. We want you to work smarter, build a legacy, and build a profitable business. We'll close out with some more words of encouragement from Stan and are proud to carry forward and improve upon what he started.
We've got to look at the problem holistically. We've got to look at what's good for the plant, because that ultimately is going to be good for the animal. What's good for the animal is eventually going to be good for the pocketbook or for the economics. If we destroy the base from which we're working, which is the plant and the soil, then ultimately we're going to be ending up destroying the economic viability of the property as well. And one of the major mistakes that I believe that we're making in grazing lands throughout the world is that we treat symptoms, not causes. The chances are that 80% of what we're doing is only producing 20% of the income. In other words, I believe that a lot of our people are working considerably harder than what they need to be doing in order to have reasonable profitability in their businesses. And the more properties I look at all over the world, I believe that this applies as much to our extensive livestock business as to any other. And I'm happy to say that we can actually improve the economics, the animal behavior, and the grazing management all simultaneously, provided we improve our skills in management as a whole.
No matter how well you operate at the operating level, if the strategy is incorrect, you're going to be in trouble. It doesn't make any difference how well you operate here. If you have the wrong enterprise because of a wrong decision here, you're going to fail. So what we need to look at is to change our management from being efficient to one of being effective by aiming at the strategic level.
Ranching for Profit is here to help you stop guessing how well you're doing and start designing how well you can do, no matter what kind of place you have, no matter what your personal goals are. At Ranching for Profit, we will help you achieve it with a strong community, a legacy, and a track record for doing just that. Start your journey today at ranchingforprofit.com.